Welcome everyone to this Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program Better Than Ever. Now we're back with Gene Kerman in Mission Control because he has a highly prestigious contract for us to fulfill for Kerbin World First's Record Keeping Society, and that is to orbit Kerbin. Now we need to establish a proper stable orbit where the periapsis is higher than 70 kilometers. We'll be given 13,000 funds as an advance, 53,000 on completion along with 27 science and 128 reputation, but obviously failure is not an option. Now let's remember this 13,287 funds advance because we really need to try and keep our vehicles below the advance value if we're going to make serious profit at this. So let's accept this contract and head on over to the science building because we have some science to spend and perhaps there are some parts that would help make this contract easier to fulfill. Now here in the science building we have three options. We have survivability, which will cost us 15 science, stability that will cost us 18 science, and general rocketry, which will cost us 20 science. Now general rocketry contains this LVT-45 liquid engine, which is a pretty good engine, and it has gimbaled vectoring thrust, so it's very good for steering your vehicle. A large Rockermax solid fuel booster, much larger than the one we've been using before, and this tiny Separatron, which is useful for discarding used components. Here in stability we have a aerodynamic nose cone which has no fuel crossfeed apparently. Yeah. We have a winglet which is a fixed winglet, it doesn't steer. And we have a radial decoupler. Okay, handy enough I suppose. But let's have a look down here at survivability for 15 science. Now this is where things start to get interesting because we have the LV909 liquid fuel engine. This has a small amount of vectoring, so makes it good for steering your vehicle. It is highly efficient when in a vacuum, so that could be handy. And we also have landing struts and these radial mount parachutes. Now I think these parts are definitely worth the purchase, so let's spend 15 of our 43 science and spend 5,300 funds to actually manufacture the parts. So we now have these parts. Now we have 28 science left, so we could either get stability or general rocketry, but not both. Well, I'm going to get general rocketry because you never know when a vectoring engine may come in handy. So let's purchase that with 20 science and spend another 6,200 funds in order to actually manufacture a supply of the parts. So we now have a fairly full inventory of basic parts that will help us build our orbiting vehicle. So let's head on over to the VAB and build that vehicle. Right, well here we are in the VAB, so let's begin off our build with command POB for Jeb to spend his time in. We will give him a parachute because he'll need that on the way back down. What else? Well, let's put our standard science on because the more science we can collect, all the better. Next we will start to use some of our new parts. So let's put a little fuel tank on and put our tiny LV909 liquid engine on. So this is going to be our sort of orbit come return vessel. So we will return all of this. Hopefully this one parachute will be enough to support all of this weight, but we will check that a little bit later. And Kerbal Engineering System will have just one of those on the back, just to help us along. So we have a total of 1,644 Delta V in this little vehicle alone. But that is not going to be enough. So if you check the wiki and go to your cheat sheet, you'll know we need at least 4,500 and something delta V to get a stable orbit. So this is not enough. So what next? Okay, well, let's get ourselves a stack decoupler. Let's get ourselves a couple of these fuel tanks. And let's get ourselves an engine. Now we've got our 2 engines now. Our LVT-30, which we've had for a while, and the LVT-45. Now you'll notice, most importantly, that the thrust of the LVT-30 is higher, and it's also cheaper. Remember, we are trying to save money. Now with these small vehicles, the reaction wheel in the capsule will probably be enough to keep us pointing in the right direction. So let's make sure we save as much money as possible. So let's build another one of these sections underneath, because we are still only at 3,800 delta V, so we need a little bit more. So let's repeat that underneath. And then finally, just to get us off the pad with as much power as possible, let's put this, put our usual, let's get the right one, get our usual solid fuel booster on the bottom like so. So this is the vehicle we want to build. Now there's 2 things wrong. Firstly, we need to sort out the staging. So we have that at the bottom, then this. So let's put those together, and those together, and those together. So that should give us huge amounts of delta V. So we are definitely going to make it. So that's good. You'll also notice we are under our 13,000 advance, so that is good as well, but we have a little warning marker. Our mass is 18.3 tons, but our launch pad can only support 18 tons. So we need to lose something. So let's lose these mystery goo containers, and that brings us down to exactly 18 tons. We've also gained a little thrust to weight ratio, which will help us get a smidgen more quickly off the pad. And we have saved a little bit of money because, of course, we don't need to spend money on the goo containers. So all in all, that is pretty good. Now we can be teensy beansy bit more efficient. We can get rid of all the monopropellant in the capsule, because we don't need that either. So that saves us a little bit of money. So we are now down to 9160. So that is 4,000 funds profit on the advance alone. So I think Jeb is going to be pretty pleased with this vehicle. It's going to get him into orbit, which will be a world first. We will earn a handy profit. We will earn shed loads of science, and it'll be fun. So let's head on out to the launch pad and see if we can establish that first orbit. Right, well, Jeb is here out on the launch pad on this sunny morning. So let's get the throttle to maximum, which will be handy for these upper 3 stages. Obviously it doesn't do anything for the solid rocket booster. Let's get the SAS on and launch this first orbital mission. Now these are the figures we need to keep our eyes on, in particular the apoapsis height, which, as we know from our contract, needs to be over 70 kilometers. Now the first stage isn't obviously going to get us there, so let's keep an eye on the amount of fuel we have left and the amount of time until we have to drop the tank. So that would be 3 seconds, 2, 1, and here we go. Away goes the first section. We have another 58 seconds of this second stage to go. Stage 3, as it's referred to on the display. And we have a nice handy thrust to weight ratio of 1.6 and climbing. So that's good for our acceleration. We also need to keep an eye on our terminal velocity and vertical speed. We don't want our vertical speed going above our terminal velocity. That would be rather a waste of fuel as we push against the thick atmosphere. But I don't think with this rather sluggish rocket we're going to have to worry about that too much. Now our next activity will be to start our gravity turn. I'm going to start a little bit early and go just a gentle turn over towards the 45-degree line marked by the 90 on the nav ball. Just gently turn. I don't want to lose control because, as we were mentioning, these LVT-30s don't have vectoring, whereas the LVT-45s do, which means the only control we have is from the reaction wheels in the capsule. So let's just be very gentle as we turn it over. We're now over at 10 kilometers. Let's eject that stage, and now with that lump of steel dropped away behind us, we have a much more manoeuvrable vehicle. There we are on 45 degrees. We have just over 50 seconds of thrust left in this engine. Handy speed, we're doing very well there, just under the terminal velocity. Now as the atmosphere gets thinner, the terminal velocity will rush ahead of us, so I don't think that's a concern any longer. So let's keep an eye on our apoapsis. Want to get up to about 71 or 72 kilometers, because we will lose just a little bit of that due to air resistance when we cut the engine. So let's just keep an eye on the height. Jeb's looking calm, good for him. Not suffering from space sickness or from G-force. Here we come. 73. 73, that'll do fine. That'll do absolutely fine. Now we've got 15 seconds of delta V remaining. Now this has got a powerful engine, whereas the LV909 isn't. Much smaller engine, much more efficient, but much smaller. You can see it is going to have very long burn in that LV909, so we've got plenty of fuel, plenty of delta V. So what I think we shall do as we prepare for our orbital insertion maneuver is just level out here, just level out. What we will do is we will fire our main engine when we are about, let's say, 10 seconds from apoapsis. We've got a minute to go. We'll fire at maximum throttle. We will jettison this last stage because we probably won't be in orbit at that point, and then continue the maneuver just with this upper stage. So let's get ready to rumble. There's KSC disappearing away in the background there. Nice view there. Got 48 seconds to go. 48 seconds to go. Let's give Jeb a bit of an IVA view, see what he can see out of the capsule. Not a great deal. The stars we are yet to explore, and the bottomless ocean as far as we know. Now we have 30 seconds to go, so let's concentrate. Let's get concentrating. 23 seconds to go, so we're going to go on the 10. So let's get ready. Get ready on our go, and let's go. So we've got about there we go, 12 seconds of fuel left in this stage, and if we go to map view, we can see our orbit expanding. 3 seconds to go. 2 and 0. So let's get out of map mode here. Let's jettison that stage and complete the activity with our tiny 909. So let's just keep an eye, shall we, on our apoapsis, which is just getting a little bit ahead of us. So let's just line up there with prograde. Now we've got 55 seconds of fuel, so we're doing just fine. Here comes our periapsis. Wait for the flip. And there we go. 111 and 71. Not exactly circular, rather more eccentric, rather like the pilot and the commentator. But we have achieved orbit around Kerbin, so that is something for Jeb to be excited about, although he's not, doesn't seem that bothered, to be honest. But while we're here, we don't have much science to do, but what we can do is a crew report, which will get us all of 4.5 science, but we will keep it because that's 4.5 more science than we had a few minutes ago, and we still have 47 seconds of thrust left. That is a lot of thrust. We were rather generous, shall we say, in how much thrust and delta V we built into this vehicle. But I think it's time for us to go home. Now, we can't use manoeuvre nodes to get home, unfortunately. All we can do is wait till we get to apoapsis and then slow down. So let's use the miracle, that is time warp, to speed ourselves round to apoapsis, where we will then decelerate and hopefully try and bring ourselves down somewhere here. So we want to be actually maybe slowing down when we're about here, bring our periapsis into the atmosphere so we land somewhere in this strip. Save a little bit more money by being able to recover the vehicle a bit closer to Kerbal Space Center. So we will accelerate a little further to times 50. So we're looking for about here. We're not going to be very accurate, but it'll do. There we go. So that's about opposite, because we want to bring ourselves down into the atmosphere about here. So there we are. We're actually on the retrograde marker. So let's just bring ourselves down. So there we go. Much too fast. Oh dear, we're going to be landing in this desert somewhere. Well, at least we're landing on land. At least it'll be dry, and we won't have to swim home. Maybe they can send some vehicles for us. Well, that didn't work out, did it? Never mind. Never mind. Let's get back to landing this vehicle. But that's actually quite a nice postcard for us to send home to Kerbal Space Center. So I think we need to get a shot of that. I think that looks rather nice for Jeb to bring home with him. Let us keep ourselves pointing retrograde, and then let's just again accelerate time back towards the atmosphere. Time warp is now times 10. Now time warp will cut out when you hit the atmosphere, so you don't have to worry too much about that. So we're at 90 kilometers now, coming over this far ocean as we approach the continent with that desert upon it. So we rather missed out there, didn't we? Never mind. Never mind. Well, there you go. Time warp has cut out, so let's get ourselves pointing retrograde. Let's get the ready to... Oh, there's that large crater. There's that large crater that you can see from the map. Let's have a quick look at the map. There's that large crater. So if we go back here, then you can see it just there. We're still at 64 kilometers, so I think we'll be heading over the top of that. But let's just engage physical time warp again. That will give us times 4, as we now have quite a good view of that crater. Volcanic or impact? Who knows? Over the rim of the crater and just over the horizon, I think we will find our desert. So let's just come out of time warp as we approach the thicker part of the atmosphere. This is where we are going to slow down at a pretty hefty speed. So here's the desert ahead of us. Down to times 2 and back down to times 1. Now I'm going to take the SAS off and just let gravity and air resistance do their thing. So we're going to be slowing down pretty rapidly now. You can see our surface speed dropping. We're at 19 kilometers a second. We're beginning to wobble a bit, so I'll just tap the SAS just to stop us from wobbling and then bring it back off again. You can just about hear in the background, just about see the flames there as we maybe I shouldn't have put it into rotation. But at least we have now some oh dear, some stability from the rotation of the vehicle. Hopefully that won't impact our impact. Now, as we come down to the thickest part of the atmosphere, I will trigger the parachute and we will land on these plains. Hopefully we won't find ourselves in these mountains, so I might delay deploying the parachute a little so we don't find ourselves on too much of a rocky outcrop, although I think I might not have much of a chance. Looks like we're going to land here and roll about a bit. Oh dear. Wish us luck. Anyway, so there goes the parachute. We're definitely at time factor 1. So looks like we're going to land somewhere here. Now, it's a very stubby craft we have here, so hopefully it won't roll too far. It's unlikely to land on its engine and balance, but let's cross fingers. Cross fingers for Jeb's survival. He seems quite happy, or hysterically excited, not sure which. We did come back with quite a lot of fuel, so if we need to, if this doesn't slow down adequately, we can just run the engines just very slightly. We're now at 2 kilometres, but we are in the Highlands, so we're about Highlands there. We're going at a vertical speed of 11 metres per second, 300 metres above the ground. So this is a little bit faster than I would have liked. A little bit faster than I would have liked. But the air is a bit thin up here, so 11 metres per second. 10 is probably ideal, so we'll just run the engines a little bit, see if we can slow ourselves down. No. Ouch! Yep, well there you go, 11 metres per second, just slightly too fast. But we are down, we did lose the engine. We kept the fuel tank, we obviously kept Jeb. We obviously kept Jeb. We can't do a crew report because we already have one in the capsule, so we can't do that. We can EVA, however, and we can take the data from the EVA pod, and then we can store it in the storage unit so that we can now take another EVA report for 5 science. We will have that 5 science, and if Jeb lets go, he can actually have a walk around in the Highlands. Well, we made it. Good old Jeb managed to land it, even if it wasn't the best of landings. Well, we did manage to get into orbit, and we did manage to land in almost one piece. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.